She may not be your taste, but Taylor Swift is an excellent songwriter. She doesn't write her own songs. Okay, so just incorrect. She does write her own songs. If she didn't write her own, it's as if this guy doesn't know about my channel. Whoa, hello everybody. Welcome back to my channel. Andrew here, or Andy, depending on the mood I'm in. Recently, about 4 days ago, Damon Albarn, or Albarn, or Albarn.
Damon Albarn. Damon Albarn.
Of both Blur and Gorillaz, gave an interview in which he critiqued Taylor Swift's songwriting ability and questioned it. And I don't know exactly what he said, but I'm going to read that article today. Now, I wanted to throw my 2 cents into the barrel here because of a few things. One is I am a singer-songwriter myself. 2, I don't care about any other people's opinions on music. This is a giant issue for me, as you can tell. It has made me not the most successful singer-songwriter ever. But it has also allowed me to listen to and appreciate and enjoy a whole variety of different kinds of music without having to worry about too much genre kind of judgment within each. So, for example, I like Taylor Swift. On my channel, I've been listening to a lot of her acoustic stuff and really getting into it. I also really like Gorillaz and Blur. In fact, I've put a Blur song in one of my other videos. Now, you might be saying, Andrew, you're saying you're a singer-songwriter, but I just don't believe it. Yes, I see the guitars, but I just don't think that you're really a singer-songwriter. Can you sing or songwrite something for me right now? Because of the angle today and the tightness of the shot and what we're doing, I'm not going to be singing on my or playing my guitar. Check out any other video literally I've done for some of that, for me playing guitar and singing at you. But I will play 2 seconds of a song that I wrote in like 2017, and it goes a little something like this. Okay, that's from an album I wrote. I love that album. A few other people really love it too, but it is a very underground album. But hopefully it does prove to you that, quality aside, I am a singer-songwriter. Okay, so that qualifies me in every way to pronounce final judgment on this situation. I will determine winners. I will determine losers. I will determine people who must hide their head forever and the people who must show their head more than they normally have. Okay? Okay. All right, so here we are. We're in the LA Times thing. We all love the LA Times. As lead singer and the pretty face of Blur, Damon Albarn became a star writing songs about England, witty, tuneful, stylistic. Tuneful is such a great pop, like, music critic word. You will never read more flowery language than, a good. And this isn't me being passive-aggressive. There really are a lot of great. I've never read this person before, but there are a lot of great people who write about music. Tuneful, stylistically omnivorous character studies like Park Life and Country House that, along with Oasis's blunter-edged anthems, ooh, kind of damning with faint praise there. Or just kind of insulting them, helped define the rowdy Britpop scene of the 90s. Yes, Blur, Gorillaz, I think of them as like kind of fun, kind of post-grunge, thoughtful, poetic, obviously influenced by the Pixies, obviously influenced by Nirvana, but also, especially the Gorillaz, really influenced also by hip-hop and a variety of different styles of music. And Albarn is a great songwriter. But Albarn's latest solo album addresses a different place, Iceland, where he became a citizen last year, decades after his first visit in '97, full of slow-mo ballads that set Albarn's tender croon amid shimmering instrumental textures. I will say this does not make it sound like an enticing album to listen to, although I'm sure it is. I don't like the writing on this. The nearer the mountain, the more pure the stream flows began when he convened a group of orchestral musicians at his home in Iceland in 2019 to tune into the landscape outside his living room window, as he put it. Okay, there are a few things more like rock star than taking all your money, moving up to Iceland. and doing like a symphony album in your mansion. Somebody with a trombone would concentrate on a cloud going over the mountain. This is the type of money that musicians need to have. When we have this type of money, we can really explore musical landscapes like this. And I'm both being silly and also kind of curious what this sounds like. He said someone else would play the waves. The onset of the COVID-19 pandemic forced an early end to the sessions, but Albarn, also known for other projects, including numerous stage productions and the virtual band Gorillaz, went on to shape the group's recording into songs. Very cool. I know Tom York has been doing some really interesting kind of soundscape things too. It's not going to be anywhere near as popular as the kind of popular music they've written before, but I think they're probably fine with that, and more power to him. Now he's bringing the album to Walt Disney Concert Hall on Monday night for a one-off concert in which he'll play the songs as well as some oldies. I guess that's why they're doing the LA Times interview, because he's playing at the Disney Hall. On piano, accompanied by a string section. Over coffee last week on the rooftop of his hotel. It was his second time in LA in 2 months following a trip in November he'd made part of the Gorillaz-related project at Netflix. I didn't know the Gorillaz had a project at Netflix. I will definitely check that out. Again, Gorillaz are very cool. Cartoon band, virtual band. Discussed his dual citizenship, the impeding 25th anniversary of Blur's self-titled 97 album. I can't believe that's 25 years old. And the legacy of the band's biggest American hit, Song 2, which is the song I played in the most recent thing, in a video of mine. We're going to just look at some of these. Have you historically enjoyed LA? It's actually been my least favorite place for the past 30 years, but I realized it was because I'd never really left West Hollywood. Everywhere in LA is not cool, but there are cool parts of it. The last time I was here, I did some work in Malibu and in Silver Lake. Malibu, I used to work for somebody in Malibu. It's a very wealthy area. Silver Lake is more kind of, it's like Park Slope in Brooklyn. It's like, upper middle class kind of area. But like very trendy, very hip, a lot of like hipsters down there. I learned to drive during lockdown, and the city just opened up. I learned to drive during lockdown. Okay. City just opened up. I discovered LA had another side to it, the less self-conscious, less feeding the beast, less showbiz. Yeah, sure. Everywhere it does. Everywhere. The idea that like certain places are just bad and certain places, there's good people everywhere and there's bad people everywhere. It's a kind of a silly thing. Okay. Your show at Disney is you on piano. Who's playing inspires you? Thelonious Monk is my favorite. So Thelonious Monk is a jazz musician. Many consider the greatest piano player who's ever lived. Oscar fans might disagree. I don't know. But Thelonious Monk played very different style of music. Very, maybe a lot of people would find it very atonal. Really kind of far out melodic structures and very, very experimental, way ahead of his time musically. And fantastic artist. If you like jazz, especially if you like, any sort of kind of experimental acid jazz or more kind of progressive-y kind of sounding stuff, you're probably already aware of Monk, but get into him. Even if you just like parlor room jazz and stuff like that. He also did a lot of just fun little grooves. Thelonious Monk is my favorite, and I was very lucky to spend a bit of time with Ruben Gonzalez, just watching him play. It's a very nice thing to be able to do something that doesn't require any amplification. I agree, but it's actually quite hard doing a whole concert on piano. It's not hard playing in a band. To me, it's way harder to play with other people than it is to play by myself. It's just different strokes, I guess. Hard because it's so exposed. You can't hide behind anything. You learn whether the song... Well, you can hide behind the piano. You learn whether the songs are any good or whether they were popular at the time because of the sound and the attitude. It's a day of the reckoning because of the sound and the attitude. Well, that's what music is. It's sound. They just like the sound of this song. I think he probably means sound more in a general way, like, the sound of the era, the kind of the sound in the streets. It's a day of reckoning, and one, to be honest, that's not much modern music could withstand. Okay, so what he's saying is there's a lot of terrible modern music and a lot of terrible modern pop, and if you just tried to play it on piano or just tried to play it on an acoustic instrument, everybody wouldn't like it. And it's just the vibe, it's the popularity of the genre at the time. I don't wholly disagree with that, although I do think there's some good pop music every now and then, but the premise, I'm still with him. You think of a lot of modern musicians are relying on sound and attitude. Again, sound is listed as a bad thing. I think he's just talking about like not melody or musicality, but on just kind of the vibe. He says, name me someone who's not. So he says everybody. There isn't a good pop musician now. She may not be your taste, but Taylor Swift is an excellent songwriter. She doesn't write her own songs. Okay, so just incorrect. She does write her own songs. If she didn't write her own, it's as if this guy doesn't know about my channel. It's as if this guy hasn't seen me go over all the writing she's done of her own songs. Of course she does. Co-writes some of them. That doesn't count. I know what co-writing is. Co-writing is very different to writing. I am not hating on anybody. Things people say while they're hating on people. I'm just saying there's a big difference between a songwriter and a songwriter who co-writes. Doesn't mean that the outcome can't be really great. Condescending. And some of the greatest singers, I mean Ella Fitzgerald, never wrote a song in her life. That may be true. Ella Fitzgerald also, I've talked about Ella before, maybe one of the greatest singers of all time, Harlem Renaissance singer from the early 20th century, Billie Holiday era kind of. I'm not going to do a whole thing on Ella Fitzgerald now, but find out about her life and the incredible person she was. When I sing, I have to close my eyes and just be in there. I suppose I'm a traditionalist in that sense. A really interesting songwriter is Billie Eilish, okay, and her brother. I'm more attracted to that than to Taylor Swift. It's just darker, less endlessly upbeat, way more minor and odd. I think she's exceptional. I think she's acceptable would be a funny thing to say. She is acceptable. Well, it would make sense because in this previous thing he said, name me someone who's not. Okay, Billie Eilish and her bro. You're into that. Okay, I've never co-written a song, I don't think. I've written hundreds of songs, all by myself. I don't care what anybody thinks about any of them, which is, again, another reason why I'm so fabulously successful. But it doesn't, to me, it really doesn't matter who writes the song. It's not just Ella Fitzgerald. It's Elvis Presley. It's Elton John has a songwriter. We don't consider these people not to be artists or not to be musicians or somehow to be invalid. I mean, Frank Sinatra, he didn't write his own songs. He sang standards or things that other people had written for him. It's just nonsense to say that this is now an era where people don't write or that somehow it's different and you're an old school guy because you write your own songs. It's just not the case. And I know he said he's been misquoted. I saw when I was looking up this article, he said he's been misquoted. Maybe we'll look into that. But honestly, just from reading this, I don't understand the critique. It doesn't matter who wrote the song. It just matters what the song is at the end of the day. It's like, oh, I don't like this song, but it was written by the artist, so it's a good song? No, you don't like the song. I'm more attracted to that than to Taylor Swift. Why are we comparing them? Because they're both young women, even though I think Billie Eilish is like a decade younger and sings a completely different style of music. Billie Eilish I know a little bit of, and her stuff seems a lot more kind of, like jazzy and R&B influenced, and she does a lot more of the kind of modern vocal technique stuff with kind of added diphthongs and different kind of stylized choices. Sings very different songs. I don't know. I think they're being compared probably because they're both young women. And this may be something where he's saying, oh, this is kind of an era of young women artists and they don't write their own songs or something. And I don't know that that's what he's saying. I'm sure he wouldn't like that characterization. But that's what it sounds like to me. I don't understand any other reason why he compared the two. Why not compare it to Harry Styles, who I think, somebody was telling me the other day that he co-writes. I think that's probably one of those things that happens when you're a rock star and everyone shits their pants when they're around you. Nobody calls you out on your bullshit. And then you end up giving I guarantee this haircut cost him like $400. And by the way, he's entitled to it. He's a good musician and good songwriter. He can do what he wants. He kind of looks like Where's Waldo. It's like a black and white Where's Waldo. And he's just never been found. Sorry. All right. Say a bit about your life in Iceland. Okay. I'm not going to talk about journalism. I am not going to attack the LA Times. I am not going to make an enemy of this writer. So everybody yelled at him. We all know that Taylor Swift writes her own songs. Sometimes she co-writes. Again, it does not matter if you write your own songs. It just, as long as you're giving credit to everybody who did write the songs, and as long as you're supporting them as a songwriter, you know, that's what you do. As you know, it's like comedians. A lot of comedians don't write their own stuff. They hire other comics who aren't as good on stage. Say, okay, you're not going to make this bit very good. Give it to me. I'll pay you, and I'll take the song, and I'll make it my own. Or I'll take the comedy bit, and I'll make it my own. Same thing for musicians. Happens all the time. It's been happening for years and years and years and years. Now, he may be talking about the fact that there's sometimes like 12 songwriters on a song. A lot of the time, I think, that has more to do with just getting more people paid, especially if you're an artist and you're saying, okay, I'll allow all these people to take some residuals on this. Because remember, you get publishing rights when you are the writer of the song. Okay, so it's very, very important. This isn't just like a context thing of who's writing and who isn't writing. This is also just about people being able to collect the royalties on their music because they wrote it. They didn't just sing it, right? It's always been a big sticking point. Okay, here we go. So on January 24th, which is 3 days ago, Taylor Swift said, at Damon Albarn, I was such a big fan of yours until I saw this. I wrote all of my own songs. Your hot take is completely false and so damaging. You don't have to like my songs, but it's really fucked up to try and discredit my writing. Wow. It is a really odd thing to compare her to Billie Eilish. It seems like a provocative kind of move. And it is, we've already discussed why it's foolish to be like, oh, you don't write your own songs because A, she does, and B, it doesn't matter if she does. She doesn't make people more valid if they write their own songs or don't. It's just about what the song is. What makes the best song? You know what I mean? I would caution Taylor Swift. I know she watches these religiously, but I would caution her of choosing to stop being fans of somebody because it can just happen. You know, sometimes, you know, you learn about a filmmaker, or you learn about a musician, and you find out that they've been awful to people, and maybe it affects how you listen to their music. But if it doesn't, it's okay. Like, you don't have to dislike people's music just because they've angered you, okay? So I hope she can find it within herself to kind of forgive and let herself still enjoy music. Oh, P.S. I wrote this tweet all by myself in case you were wondering. Yeah, it is, because it is as if he's condescending. He doesn't choose male artists who don't write their own music. There's dozens of them. He chooses 2 female artists. So to me, it does seem kind of like a gendered comment, especially because he talks about Billie Eilish also. And maybe because she writes with her brother, it's cool. I don't know. All right, so let's see what he said in response. Okay, update. Albarn has issued an apology to Swift, blaming the Los Angeles Times for publishing clickbait. I totally agree with you, he told her. I had a conversation about something, and sadly it was reduced to clickbait. I apologize unreservedly and unconditionally. Well, you don't, but that's okay. The last thing I would want to do is discredit your songwriting. I hope you understand. Okay, so this seems very, very sincere to me. Even though he is qualifying his apology by the fact that this was just clickbait. We read the article. If it was the fact that it's clickbait is neither here nor there. I mean, maybe it gave a lot of people the wrong idea, but it doesn't sound like it because that's what you said in the article. It seems as if he's saying, I'm sorry. But I don't know how you'd say the last thing I would want to do is discredit your songwriting. You literally just said she doesn't write her own songs. It's this like famous thing that people get. They're very, very famous and they're indestructible, and then they can say whatever they want, and everybody in the room agrees with them, and everybody thinks they're so great, and then they say it out in public, and it's you know, they are given a dose of reality. So I don't think he should be crucified. Again, I like Gorillaz. I like Blur. I have an old friend who's like, Gorillaz is his favorite band. Like he is a beloved artist, and I actually really would recommend listening to his songs because obviously, as we are learning, he is a man of great conflict and great emotion. And often those people make really good artists. So if you haven't listened to his stuff, I'd recommend it. Just giving it a listen. It might not be for you, but it might be. And I think we should probably learn how to forgive him because it seems as if he's trying to say, I'm sorry. I think it probably, and it's natural to want to defend yourself and say, oh, everybody's getting the wrong idea about this. But it sounds to me like he was kind of condescending to two female artists and saying like, oh, well, one is okay and one isn't, not giving a good reason why he's comparing them and not discussing any of the reasoning behind why they're kind of their songwriting wouldn't hold up. So I think if you take literally what he was trying to say, he's trying to say music now would not survive acoustically. He's saying presumably Taylor Swift could not just do a song of her on a piano and have it survive in the same way that I guess his music can or whatever. I don't know if he's saying it's his music, but it's just bullshit. I mean, I'm almost at the end of an album in which they play like three instruments. He's either just her on guitar, which he's also done a bunch of times, literally on an acoustic instrument. There's less style behind a guitar than there is behind a piano, frankly, in my opinion. And she just did this whole folklore album where it's just like a few, again, like I like some of her songs more than I like some of her other songs. I am a snobby, I don't like really highly compressed, highly done pop music, and she's done a lot of that type of music. When she gets into the more acoustic stuff, I really start to like the songs. So I agree with the fact that a lot of music couldn't hold up to those things. But Taylor Swift is just an odd person to choose for that example. You know what I mean? Because she specifically has done so many just her on acoustic performances, or just her with like one person on piano, one person on like a snare drum or something, as we've been seeing in folklore. It's just a really bad call. Now, I wonder if this will actually be good for Blur and Gorillaz. It might kind of revitalize some of their, they say there's no publicity. There's no such thing as bad publicity. This is going to publicize their work a lot. I don't think it should be what Damon Albarn is remembered for the rest of his life. But I do think that it's a remarkably stupid thing to say and arguably sexist thing to say and timing-wise terrible. Now, by the way, I am not, people have asked, am I a feminist or do I consider myself the kind of arbiter of moral male feminist thought or something like that? I don't consider myself a feminist. I also just don't consider myself much of anything. I consider myself a few things. I don't usually talk about those things. It's very hard for me to get. Very hard. I don't like to join clubs. I just talk about my points of view, and maybe you agree with them, and maybe you don't. I could tell you what my personal beliefs are on certain things, and I could tell you which categories I see myself in. I find that less useful, frankly, than talking about specifics. And maybe if he had talked about specifics, or maybe if the interviewer had asked one more question after he had impugned the songwriting ability of the preeminent pop star, if they had followed that line a little bit further, we might have gotten some more clarification on his point, and he might have kind of found a more graceful way to say it. We will never know. So I hear what he's saying a little bit. I definitely hear his initial point. I just think he chose a really bad example, and I think there's probably some reasons why. So that's my 2 cents. That is the correct opinion. There can be no other opinion other than that. And I stand by that wholeheartedly. Thank you guys for checking out this video. Check out all of my Taylor Swift videos, because I talk about her songs, the ones that I like, on my channel, and talk about her songwriting, go through the lyrics very, very specifically. And I've really enjoyed it. It's really helped my channel grow. I'm appreciative to the fact that there still are performing musicians, acoustic musicians that are so popular that they can bring people in and entertain people with just their voice and just their instrument. And I think that, I think we could probably all do with just a little bit less putting things into categories. I know that's a very kind of kumbaya type of thought, and one that people have thought before, and I'm not the first person to say it, but it's just never very useful to reduce somebody to a certain category or to a certain limitation because it's easier for you to kind of classify them. Anyway, that I'm not going to go into the whole that. Thank you guys for checking out this video. Please like, please subscribe. Let me know what you think in the comments. Do you think I'm right? Do you think I'm wrong? Do you think Albarn is right? Do you think he is wrong? Do you think that he was the victim of clickbait? I don't know. Anyway, until next time, though, keep playing.